Chapter 20, Part 4. I was awakened by the colonel's shaking my shoulder. Get up, turn out, we got to get out of here. The first rays of dawn were barely beginning to show themselves through the dim basement window. I sat up on my bunk. Not only did I have a splitting headache, but I found I had trouble breathing. Quote, it's still early, the dawn hasn't even broken, I observed. Quote, a little longer and it'll be too late. They've lit some cotton wool with powder. It's an old trick. A little longer and we'll be suffocated. He went to the window and started working the window frame loose with an iron bar. The tramps had locked the door from the outside. Taking out the frame, he broke the glass and crawled through the aperture. The basement window opened into a concrete well covered with a grating. The colonel began fiddling with the grating, trying to dislodge it, but somehow it wasn't working. I stayed leaning against a wall. My head was spinning. The colonel stuck his head back through the window opening and ordered, squat down, less smoke near the floor. Try not to move. Breathe in less air. He forced the grating out with his shoulders. He moved it off and helped me clamber out. We sat on the cement curb outside the basement window, silently filling our lungs with the pre-dawn air of an awakening city. The spinning in my head gradually lessened. The air started feeling cold. Each of us sat there thinking his own thoughts. Then I said, quote, your neighbors aren't very friendly. They're the ones in charge here. Quote, everyone's in charge of himself. They got their own business. They bring in a new homeless person and make him pay for staying overnight. If he refuses to pay, they slip something into his drink or suffocate him in his sleep like they tried to do to us, and then they take whatever they like from him. If he's got anything worth taking, that is. Quote, and you're telling me that you, a KGBer, are indifferent to it all? You can earn yourself some pretty points by giving chaps like that the once-over. Or were you just a pencil pusher sitting in an office all day? Maybe you didn't know how to work the street. Quote, I worked in an office and I worked outside the office. I knew what to do. But to know the moves, that's not the same as applying them. A criminal, an enemy, that's one thing. But here we're dealing with human beings. I might calculate wrong and use too much deadly force. Quote, you call those human beings? While you're rationalizing away, they're out there robbing people blind. They're even ready to commit murder. Quote, yeah, they're ready to commit murder, but you won't stop them by physical means. Quote, you sit there philosophizing, but we almost died. We barely managed to escape. Others might not be so lucky. Quote, yeah, others might not be so lucky. Quote, there, you see? Then how come you're philosophizing and not acting? Quote, I can't use violence on people. You see what I mean? I could calculate wrong. You may as well get going in your own deployment quarters. It's dawn already. I got up, shook his hand, and left. I had gone but a few steps when he called after me. Wait, come back here a moment. I approached the homeless colonel sitting on the concrete curb. He was just sitting there, his head lowered, not saying a word. Quote, hey, why did you call me? After a moment's pause, he spoke. Quote, so you think you'll make it okay? I think I can. It's not far. 3 metro stops, that's all. I'll make it. Quote, I mean, do you think you'll reach your goal? Are you sure? Writing a book? Getting it published? Quote, I'll give it a try. First, I'll try writing. So Anastasia said it should work out for you? Quote, that's what she said. Quote, then why didn't you do that right off? Quote, the other seemed more important. Quote, so that means you're not good at following orders properly. Anastasia didn't order me. She asked me. Quote, she asked you, So she worked out the tactics and the strategy herself. And you thought you'd do it your way, and you just loused things up. Quote, that's how it turned out. Quote, that's how it turned out. You got to pay closer attention to your orders. Here, take this. He held out something wrapped in a small plastic package. I unwrapped it and saw through the clear plastic a golden wedding band and a silver cross on a little chain. Quote, a dealer will give you half price for these. Let him have them for half price. Maybe it'll help see you through. If you've got nowhere to stay, come back here. I'll take care of them. Quote, what are you talking about? I can't take these. Quote, don't rationalize. It's time for you to go. So go. Look to it. Just go. Quote, I'm telling you, I can't take them. I tried to give him back the ring and the little cross, but I was met by an authoritative and at the same time pleading stare. Quote, about face, forward, march, he commanded in a whisper that was restrained, yet brooked no contradiction. A moment later came another plea. Quote, just be sure you make it. Arriving at my flat, I felt like going to sleep and even got to the point of lying down, but I couldn't get the homeless colonel out of my head. I got dressed in some clean clothes and went back to see him. Along the way, I thought, maybe he'll agree to move in with me. He's adaptable to anything. He's practical and he's neat. Besides, he's an artist. Maybe he'll do a picture for the book's cover, and it'll be easier to find some rent money if we're together. I had no money for the next month's rent. As I approached the basement window we had climbed out of earlier that morning, I saw a group of people, tenants from the building, a police car, and an ambulance. The homeless colonel was lying on the ground, his eyes closed and a smile on his face. His face and body were splattered with wet dirt. One dead hand was clenched around a piece of red brick. A broken wooden crate stood against the wall. A court medical assessor was writing something down on a notepad. He was standing behind the corpse of another man, dressed in shabby, rumpled clothing and with a disfigured face. In the little crowd that had gathered, no doubt comprised of the building's tenants, one woman was rattling on excitingly, quote, I was walking my dog and I saw him, the one smiling, perched on the crate, his face to the wall, and the three of them, tramps by the look of it, 2 men and a woman with them. They come at him from behind. The man gives the crate a kick and he falls off the crate to the ground. They start kicking him and cursing him all the while. I yell at them. They stop kicking. Old Smiley here gets up, you see. He has a pretty hard time getting up too. And he tells them to knock it off and not show their faces around here again. They start cursing, and then they come at him full force. As they get closer, he gives a straight chop with the back of his hand right to the throat of the guy who's kicking the crate. It's not that he's waving his arms about or anything. He just lands him with a chop so he doubles up and can't breathe. I yell at him, and the 2 of them run straight off. First the woman, then the man after her. Smiley now clutching his heart. He ought to sit down or lie down if it's his heart that's giving out, but no, he goes back to his crate. He moves ever so slowly, puts his crate back up against the wall, then he starts getting back up on it. I can see he's in a really bad way. He starts falling, and he slides down, still drawing on the wall with that red brick of his, and he keeps on drawing till he lands himself on the ground, and he's lying there face up, right against the wall. I run over, look at him, and he's not breathing, but he's smiling. Why did he climb up on the crate? I asked the woman. Yeah, why did he climb up if his heart was giving out? Echoed a voice from the crowd. Quote, he wanted to keep on drawing, and when those 3 guys came at him from behind, he was drawing. That's what he was doing. That's probably why he didn't see them coming. I had been walking my dog for a while, and there he is, standing on his crate, drawing. He didn't turn round, not even once. You can see what he drew up there on the wall. And the woman pointed to the building. On the gray brick wall of the building could be seen the circular outline of the sun, and in the middle of it, a cedar branch, and all around the perimeter of the sun circle, some letters printed rather unevenly. I went closer to the wall and read, "Ringing Cedars of Russia." Apart from that, there were rays emanating from the sun. There were only 3 of them. The homeless colonel didn't manage to draw any more. 2 of the rays were short and straight, while the third was wavy and fading away and extended right down to the base of the wall, where the dead homeless colonel was lying on the ground smiling. I looked at the smiling face, smeared with dirt, and thought to myself, maybe in the last moments of his life, Anastasia managed to touch him with her ray and warm him up, at least warm his soul up a little and carry it off to a bright infinity. I watched as the corpses were loaded into the ambulance. My colonel was thrown carelessly in the process, his head striking the floor of the ambulance. I couldn't take it. I tore off my jacket, ran over to the ambulance, and started demanding that they put my jacket under his head. One of the orderlies swore at me, but the other took the jacket without a word and placed it under the colonel's graying head. The vehicles drove off. Everything was empty, just as if nothing had happened. I stood there for a while, looking at the drawing and the inscription illuminated by the morning sun. My thoughts began getting all mixed up. I had to do something, at least something for him, for this KGB, this ex-KGB, a Russian officer who had perished on this spot. But what? What indeed? Then it came to me. I'm going to put your drawing, my dear officer, on the cover of my book. The book I most definitely will write. Even though I don't yet know how to write, I'll still write one, and not just one. And on all of them, I'll put your drawing. It'll be my emblem. And in the book, I'll tell all Russians, quote, "My fellow Russians, don't shoot at the hearts of your officers with invisible exploding bullets, bullets of cruelty and heartlessness. Don't shoot from behind at any soldiers, whether they're white or red or even blue or green. The bullets you fire at them from behind are more terrible than the lead ones. My fellow Russians, do not shoot at your officers."